what to do? Can anybody help me solve this? And what's this called specifically? Because I tried searching linear, nonlinear equations on YouTube, can't find a tutorial on this type of that has so many x. Any help appreciated? Okay, let's take a look. First, to answer your question, this right here can be called a polynomial inequality. Whenever you have a less than, greater than, that's called an inequality. And whenever you have like so many terms, it's called a polynomial. Let's just keep that in mind. At least nonlinear though, because we have x to the third power. Here we have 4 terms. Our best bet is to make one side equal to 0, which it already is. Try to factor the other, and then go from there. Because we have 4 terms, so we'll try to do it by grouping. Look at the first 2 terms, and then the last 2 terms. And make sure you draw underlines, do not put on parentheses yet. From the first 2 terms, we can factor out x squared. And then we will get 2x to the first power minus 3. Then, right here, we have this negative. Before we do anything though, write that down. Whatever this sign is, write that down. It's crucial, write that down. Now, 2x plus 3, we cannot factor out anything, but technically, we are going to factor out negative 1. Because you will see, right here, this term originally is negative 2x. Divided by negative 1, we will end up with positive 2x. This term is positive 3, but we took out the negative 1. Just think about it as 3 divided by negative 1, and we end up with negative 3. And still maintain the same less than or equal to 0. So, this and that are indeed the same, so we can factor that out. 2x minus 3 all the way in the front, just write it down one time. And then the leftover is the x squared minus 1. And that's still less than or equal to 0. Can we continue factoring it? Yes, especially this part. So I'm going to keep this. X squared minus 1, this is a difference of 2 squares. When we factor it, we get x minus 1 times x plus 1. So, just a quick recap. Whenever we're trying to solve a polynomial inequality, first, make sure that one side is equal to 0. Second, try to factor the other side. And we did that by doing factor by grouping. So, this is what we have now. Now, the third step, which I would recommend you to do if this is the first time that you are doing the polynomial inequality, it's called number line test. How are we going to do it? Firstly, I like to write down the numbers that we care, so I'll put down care. What are the numbers that we care from here? Well, for the first factor, 2x minus 3, how can we make this equal to 0? Well, add 3 to both sides, divide 2 to both sides, so the first x is 3 over 2. That is what we care first. Next, x minus 1 is equal to 0. How can we make x equal to 0? Well, x is equal to 1. And then lastly, x plus 1 is equal to 0. So x has to be negative 1. So these are the 3 numbers that we care. Okay, to continue, we are going to draw a number line. And then we are going to put down the numbers that we care on the number line from the smallest to the biggest. Because the smaller number is on the left of the number line. So here we are going to put down negative 1. Now, which one is smaller? 1 is smaller because this is at 1.5. So let's say we have 1 here, and then 3 over 2. Again, it's at 1.5. Now, going back to this inequality, we have less than or equal to. So, we care about these 3 numbers. We are also going to include them. I'm going to use closed circle here, and closed circle here. Then, we have to find out which region that we are going to pick, or which interval that we are going to pick. To do so, here's the number line test, or test point. Go ahead and pick a number less than negative 1. Any number will work. You can pick negative 2, negative 5, negative 17, but of course, negative 2 might be the easiest for us to use right here. Once you pick negative 2, plug into here, and you just have to make sure if the result is positive or negative. So let's have a look. When you plug in -2 into here, you get, I'm going to write down all the steps for you for this one. 2 times -2 minus 3. That will give us negative. So I'm just going to put on this for negative. You don't care about negative, whatever, just negative. And then plug in -2 into the x. We have -2 minus 1. So that's another negative. Lastly, -2 plus 1. That is still negative. Negative times negative times negative. Altogether, this region here, or this interval, gives us negative result. And then we are going to continue to do the same thing for this, this, and that. So for this, pick a number between -1 and 0. Sorry, -1 and 1. Let's pick 0. It's the easiest number. And once you get the idea of like what's going on, you can also do this in your head. Let's try it. Plugging 0 into here, that's negative. Plugging 0 into here, that's negative. Plugging 0 into here, that's positive. Negative times negative is positive, times another positive, the whole thing is positive. Continue, pick a number between 1 and 1.5. Let's pick 1.25 or 1.2, doesn't matter. This right here might be a little bit trickier though, so let's write it down. 2 times 1.25 and then minus 3. This right here is 2.5 minus 3. Oh, that's going to be negative. Times 1.25 into here, that will give us positive. 1.25 into here, that will give us positive. Negative times positive will give us negative. What's going to be the last one? Well, you might be wondering, we have negative, positive, negative. The next one has to be positive, right? In this case, yes, the sign do alternate, but you have to be careful. Sometimes, if you have like an even exponent here, then I would recommend you to really test them out, right? Don't take any shortcuts at the moment, just test it out. Right here, pick a number bigger than 1.5, let's say 2. Plug in here, we get positive, positive, positive. We do end up with all positive. So once we have the number line with the sign, and this is called sign chart or number line test, we can write down the answer. And it depends on how the answer has to be presented. We can present the answer from the number line. Have a look. We're looking for less than or equal to 0. So we need the negative, and when x is -1, we get a 0. So we have to this, and that's it. That will be the graphical way to present the answer. So I can say the answer is just from -1 like this and all the way to infinity, negative infinity, and then 1 and 3/2 here and here. Yeah, this is the graphical way. Once you have the graph, you can also write this down as an interval notation. This right here, we go all the way to negative infinity. So we say you use parentheses for negative infinity up to -1. And we are including -1, so we use a bracket like this. Now, for this part, because we have another interval, we are going to put down a union, meaning put together with this. This interval goes from 1 to 3/2, including this and including that. So bracket here and bracket here. This is called interval notation. Lastly, of course, you can also just write this down with inequalities. Then in this case right here, we say x is less than or equal to -1 because it's from here all the way to the left. You can also put an or, or just put comma. It doesn't really matter in my opinion. But do not put on union though for inequality presentation. Put on or comma. Yeah, something like that. Now for this right here, x is in between of 1 and 3/2. Right here, it might be a little bit trickier. you have to make sure that the pointing thing is always pointing to the smaller number. So it goes like this: less than or equal to, less than or equal to. This shows x is in between of 1 and 3/2, including 1 and including 3/2. So, graph, interval notation, inequality. Let me know which one is the one that you have to answer. Hope this right here helps. That's it.